What's up, fellas? This week we got International Fight Week, UFC 290, Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. To start this card off, we got two fights: Kamela Kirk versus Esteban Rovics, and Shannon Bross versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm honestly not excited to watch any of these guys fight. I don't even understand why they're on this card at all. Maybe Esteban Robovics is the only guy I'm a tad bit excited for, but the other guys I don't think are going to make another contract. These guys have a combined record of 1-4 in the UFC and are 2-2 on the Contender Series. So it's not even like they're winning the Contender Series, which is kind of funny. But let's talk about Esteban Robovics a little bit here. We saw him lose his UFC debut to Lulik Radzhabov. He did get taken down and controlled in that fight. But Radzhabov shot 21 times, got 11 of them, and had him controlled for 7.5 minutes. I don't think Kamela's going to do that here. He's 2 for 5 on takedowns on the Contender Series, and then in his 2 other UFC fights, he has 0 takedowns. It would probably be smart for him to try to get this fight to the mat at some point, but I'm not sure he's going to do that. Robovics has shown good power. He did score a knockdown on Lulik Radzhabov, just didn't get the finish, and then on the Contender Series got a win in a minute and a half. So I think he's a very dangerous fighter, has some potential, and Robovics is the pick. I would look at his finish props. I'm not sure who, and maybe even finish only. Yeah, I'm not sure who Kamela Kirk is finishing inside the UFC. Like, Contender Series, like, couldn't finish Makwan Americani. That's not a good look. I don't think he's finishing Esteban Robovics here, but who knows? I've seen crazier things, but the pick is Esteban Robovics inside the distance. Maybe the finish only prop. Now let's take a look at the odds. Look at the odds here. We have Robovics, a minus 170 favorite here. Kamela Kirk coming in as a dog at plus 145. Doesn't appear the props are out, but hopefully you get a good number around like plus 200 for Robovics inside the distance, maybe even a little wider. But I think that's how he wins. And Kirk has been finished once on the Contender Series and in his UFC loss. So I see that happening again here. Okay, next up is the second half of these fights that I don't believe should be on this card, with Shannon Ross going against Jesus Aguilar. I don't really have much to say. I'm not interested in this fight. I don't care much about either fighter. Let's move on to Cameron Simon versus Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell took this fight on short notice. That being said, he's been on the UFC radar for a while. He fought on Tough a couple years back in 2016. But since then, he hasn't been as active as he would have liked. He fought once in, 2023. He fought twice in 2023 so far, which is a good thing to see. But once in 2022, and then before that, I didn't have a fight since 2018. So took a 4-year layoff. I don't know what he is doing during that 4-year layoff, but he comes back, gets 3 wins on the first round. Yeah, early on in the first round too. I don't know much about this guy because he is fighting and training in Alaska. I know South Africa is not all that better, but Simon has at least proved it at the UFC level. Mana Martinez was a very good win for him. If you look at who He's beating Alaska 4-1 guy, 4-2 guy, 4-0 guy, 3-3 guy. And then we saw him take a step up in competition against Kai Kara France. He got knocked out in 30 seconds. I'm not sure Simon is the same level of fighter as Kai Kara France, but I do believe he's a legit fighter. Like maybe there's a grappling threat from him, from Terrence Mitchell, and he does seem to have like a good frame for the division. He's listed at 5'10". Simon's listed at 5'11". So Simon should be a slightly bigger fighter. I think he can keep this fight on the feet and get a knockout at some point. We've seen Terrence Mitchell lose by knockout before the Kai Kara France. I think Simon hits hard. He's going to get a knockout at some point in this fight. That's a pick. I'm willing to bet it. I'm willing to play his money line if it's minus 200 or under, and the KO prop if it's like plus 200-ish, somewhere in there. Now let's take a look at the odds. So he's a minus 500 favorite. That's a little wide for me. I have no idea who this Terrence Mitchell guy is. Don't know what he was doing for that 4-year layoff. But here he is. Don't have the props out either, so can't tell you what the knockout prop would be. But with him being such a big favorite, I would guess it would be close to like the minus 100 range. Like minus 15, minus 115, somewhere in there. Okay, next up, we got Vitor Petrino going against Marcin Prachnio. Vitor Petrino has a clear path to victory in this fight using his wrestling to win minutes. And another path to victory is to land a big knockout shot, which is very good. We've seen he has very good power on the Contender Series, landing a brutal knockout in the second round. And he probably does at some point here. Petrino has been knocked out 4 times. On the other side, for Prachnio to win this fight, he has to stop the takedowns and then be perfect on the feet using his kicks to keep Petrino at range. I think, though, Petrino does get this fight to the ground at some time and land some big bombs, scoring a TKO finish. Next up, we have a highly touted Japanese prospect in Tatsuya Taira going against Edward Chairez. Edgar Chairez did fight on the Contender Series against Clayton Carpenter, maybe last year it was, and he did win that fight, but he looked good. He looked like he had some power and was a pretty gritty fighter, honestly. But against Tatsuya Taira here, I think Taira's far better and levels above him. In that Contender Series fight, Clayton Carpenter was 3 for 6 on takedowns and controlled him for 4.5 minutes. Here, Taira should have no problem taking Chairez to the mat. And once he get there, I think he will give Chairez his 3rd submission loss shortly after. Tatsuya by sub is a play here, but it's probably extremely chalky. I don't know, let's look at the odds here. Where is it at? Yeah, he's a minus 900 favorite. Like, it probably happens, honestly, but I'm not sure anything's really bettable there. Against. And then for the Petrino fight, minus 280 favorite. And I'm not sure I'm betting that either. Honestly, it's super wide. Take a look at the knockout prop once it comes out. Okay, next up, we got a rematch in the light heavyweight division between Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield. Their first fight was extremely exciting. Pretty early on, Alonzo Menifield hurt Jimmy Crute bad and continued hurting him really bad. But it probably should have been stopped, but for some reason it didn't. And Jimmy Crute just kept like chain wrestling and getting it down to the mat until Alonzo was gassed out, and then eventually was able to like return the favor in the third round, and the fight was determined to draw. In my opinion, the first fight was a clear Menifield win, and I think he looked better. Jimmy Crute has no chin anymore. Maybe he has some decent cardio and some wrestling and toughness, but dude has no chin. I think Menifield's going to do the same thing, but this time he's going to successfully get the finish. I also don't see this fight going 3 rounds like it did the first time, so I think fight doesn't get a decision is worth parlaying up and playing. And I believe Alonzo wins this one by knockout. Don't really see maybe first or second round, depending, but I think Alonzo's going to get this one. Let's look at the odds. And we look at the odds to pick 'em with Alonzo here. A little bit wider, minus 105. I think that's because people saw Jimmy Crute have success in the takedowns, but I'm not worried about personally. I'm willing to bet Menifield at the spot because I think he clearly won the first fight and should have gotten the finish. Next up, we got Yasmin Jauregui versus Denise Gomez. I'll be straight up, I'm not really interested in this fight. Good luck to those who are. It should be pretty exciting to watch for a women's fight, but I'm not interested in talking about it. Let's move on to our 8th fight of the night. We got Jack Della Maddalena going against Josiah Harrell. I would much rather have seen Harrell on the Contender Series at lightweight, which is his respective division, but here he is taking a short notice fight against Jack Della Maddalena, who's a barely hot prospect in the welterweight division currently. On paper, let's look at like the reach and height here. On paper, Jack Della Maddalena is 5'11", 73-inch reach, and Harrell is 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. And so he has a huge reach advantage, probably has the power advantage, probably has every advantage there is, really. Maybe outside the wrestling, but he has been training in this camp to fight Sean Brady, who is going to go out there and try to wrestle him and get him to the ground. So I'm not really worried about that. I think he should get a knockout in this fight. I have a lot of confidence, willing to parlay him up. Let's look at the odds here. Minus 950 favorite. Yeah, I'm not sure you can parlay that, but I think it happens, honestly. There's a lot of big favorites on this card. Next up, we got Robbie Lawler going against Niko Price. This should be a fun war on the feet. There is concerns on the durability on both sides. We go to Lawler's past couple fights, and he hasn't looked great. You can say the same for Niko Price, but Lawler's getting finished by Bryan Barberena. He got knocked out by Bryan Barberena in the second round. And then we go to Nico Price. He had Roxanne Modafferi double knee sleeves on his last fight. Heard he's had terrible surgeries. Like, I think this dude's on a downward trend in his career. He lost 3 of his last 4 fights, 2 by knockout. Against Vicente Luque and Phil Rowe, who honestly don't hit as hard as, or hit much harder than Robbie Lawler, but still concerns in the durability. He can definitely get knocked out. Yeah, Abdul Razak Al Hassan was no shame in that, but he put him out in 43 seconds. Jeff Neal put him out in the second round. Don't like the durability of Nico Price. Robbie Lawler, this is his retirement fight here. I don't really have a good read on how this fight goes, but I would bet the unders, maybe, but like, we look at the wins, and Robbie Lawler got a round 3 finish of Nick Diaz, who, like, hadn't fight in 3 years and was just coming in for a paycheck, and not the best look. Nico Price, decision win against Alex Oliveira, who we saw get knocked out by Kevin Holland. Yeah, and he goes into the regional scene, gets choked out, KO'd. That guy's chin is gone, and Nico Price went to decision with him. Yeah, I don't really know what to say on this side. Maybe bet the unders, but like, if these guys just go to war and start banging, I don't think either of their chins are all that good and all that there. I really don't have a side to bet here. This is like a 1-800-GAMBLER bet. I think Lawler's more likely to get the knockout. Maybe Price is more likely to get a decision here because he's just 8 years younger, but don't really know what to think about this. Okay. To open up the main card, we got Bo Nickal going against Tresean Gore. Bo Nickal has looked phenomenal up to this point in his career. Don't really see that changing here. Like, I'm not sure why they decide to hate Tresean Gore so much. Like, Bo Nickal should see all the big looped shots. Like, I don't think he has any tricks. He doesn't really have any ground game. We saw him get a guillotine, and, like, he just kind of, like, amateur style finished it, like, with as much strength as possible. I didn't see him all that technical. I don't see him getting a guillotine here. His only win is to land a hook, but I think Bo Nickal's going to see the hook, and Bo Nickal's going to not get hit and knocked out by a hook. He's going to duck in for a takedown right away, get the takedown, and then it's debatable whether he gets a ground and pound or a choke. Everybody's been thinking knockout. I think his first fight where he got 33-second win. Then Contender Series, rear naked choke. Contender Series, triangle choke. Contender UFC debut, arm triangle. Like, I think by sub is the pick. We've seen Tresean Gore chinned before by Brundage, but I think he's gonna just go back to his roots, get a sub. I'd probably pick rear naked choke as the most likely sub here, but we've seen Bo Nickal willing to even go on bottom, chasing these subs, like the triangle he put on Donovan Beard. I don't know. Nickal by sub, though, is the pick. Let's look at these lines and see if anything's playable here. Minus 1,400 favorite. Like, ugh. This is clearly dogger pass, no props out, but Maybe play the unders too. I don't think Gore's that durable. Like, yeah. Don't think he's that competent on the mat either, really. So, going with the unders as a bet. But they're probably going to be ton hell of juice too. Next up, we got a rebooking between Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner. I'm excited for this fight. This should be a pretty exciting striking match. In Jalen Turner's losses, he's either getting knocked out or getting wrestled. Dan Hooker isn't going to be a wrestler that can control him for almost 15 minutes of this fight. Maybe he gets a takedown, but it's going to be right back up to the feet. Another thing to keep in mind is the power. Jalen Turner is being put out by Vicente Luque, and let's see who else. Yeah, Vicente Luque knocked him out, and fights early in his career he got knocked out in, but nothing recently. Yeah, he got knocked out 2014, 2015, and then Vicente Luque inside the UFC. And he loses a split decision to Gamrot. And Gamrot took the fight on short notice, I think. That just shows the improvement he's made to his wrestling defense. I don't see that path really here for Dan Hooker. I think this is going to be a test on the striking department for Turner. But we saw him have no problems with Jamie Malarkey, Brad Riddell, or Uros Medic, which were all good strikers. I think, and I don't see Hooker chinning Turner and putting him out cold. This is honestly a pretty tough matchup. It seems like Dan Hooker's taken a lot of tough matchups recently. Like fighting Arnold Allen, Islam Makhachev, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier. Like, he's still beating the people he should beat, but his chin just hasn't been the same, honestly, since that Poirier fight. Like, getting knocked out by Michael Chandler, knocked out by Arnold Allen. He just kind of blitzed him. But he is still good technical fighter, is long. I do believe he has a reach disadvantage in this fight. He has 75.5-inch reach. I believe Turner has like a 78-inch reach or maybe 80-inch reach. Let me check. Yep. Oh, Turner's listed as 75.5-inch reach. But he's 6'3". Dan Hooker's 5'11". Oh, Dan Hooker's 6 foot. Still, Turner's going to be a longer fighter here. And I think he honestly gets a finish. Maybe a club and sub. Probably just a straight knockout, though, would be my bet. Look at the odds, and we see Turner as a minus 240 favorite. That's honestly a little wide for my taking. I was hoping that was a little bit under minus 200 to play here. You could probably play Hooker. I think that's probably who I'd play at where the line's at right now. But, yeah, I'm not sure you can parlay Turner. Like, he's looked phenomenal, but hasn't proved it against anyone on Dan Hooker's level. Maybe take a look at, like, the finish props. Or, yeah, I'm not sure if the unders are worth playing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the best rate on this fight. I think Jalen Turner is the side, though, who most likely wins, but a little wide here for my taste. Next up, we got a highly talked about fight between Robert Whitaker and Dricus Du Plessis. All has been made about Dricus getting the title shot here if he beats Rob, and the champion Israel has called him out and been talking about everything to his race, to like how African he is, and all this drama. But when you break it down purely on the fight perspective, on who's gonna win, I think the violence props are what stand out here. Like, Drake is going to be kill or be killed, and Rob has way better conditioning to potentially turn it on late and put him out in the third. Rob has not finished anyone since 2017, but I don't think Drekus makes it to the decision here. He is either going to be bring it and kill or be killed. I think the Whitaker round 2 or 3 props are playable. And then, like, from a side perspective, I think Drekus has to get this fight into the ground and get it dirty to have a chance of winning. Using his pure strength and explosiveness, I think he has a chance to do so, despite Rob having 84% takedown defense. So that's going to be a difficult path for Drekus to pursue, and I think he will struggle to hold him down as well. We saw Romero take him down 7 times across his 2 fights, and then against Kelvin Gastelum, Gastelum got 1 takedown, but he got up in like 20 seconds, and Whitaker landed 4 takedowns of his own against Gastelum. That is an interesting thing to think about if Rob chooses to take Du Plessis down here. I'm not sure Du Plessis is going to get up off his back, but who knows? Like, we saw him fall into mount and get up against like, he went for like a suplex against in the first round against Brad Tavares and ended up on bottom and was able to get out. We saw Bronson have a little bit of success taking him down, but he got back up against Brunson, so but he's pure explosiveness and just kind of gassed out. I don't know. When we look at I think this is Rob's fight to lose. Like, he's so much more technical than Dricus, and could look almost flawless in this fight, getting like a knockout here. Pick would be round 2 or 3, playing that Dricus gassing out props, or just look at the unders. Like, the fight doesn't go in general. I don't think Dricus is going to make it through 3 fights here against Rob. I think Rob's very powerful, despite going to decision all those times. If there's a lot of gas on it, maybe for like plus 500 or something, I'd be willing to bet it goes to decision, but that's a terrible bet. I probably wouldn't advise it. We look at the line here, minus 410 for Whitaker, plus 310 for Du Plessis. I think it's might be playable on the Du Plessis side, but probably sit back and watch this fight. Outside of those Whitaker round 2, round 3 props, you could probably get him at plus money, which I think are the way to play this fight. Play Whitaker decision only if that's not gassed, but that'll be gassed super high probably. Let's get to the co-main event of the night. We got the UFC flyweight title on the line between Brandon Moreno and Alexander Pantoja. Moreno has faced Pantoja 2 times in his career and lost both of them. One by rear naked choke and one by decision. And let's figure out what's going to happen here. Every time I see Moreno fight, I always walk away thinking this guy's beatable. He gets hit, but he has shown a lot of toughness and is a well-rounded fighter on both the feet and the ground. I think he has made improvements on the ground substantially since the first time these guys fight. I do have some questions on the Pantoja side on how his cardio is going to look in the fourth and fifth round. We see this guy just blitzing people early, but I'm not sure how that works here. Uh, there's definitely an advantage in the championship experience Moreno has, who has gone to decision twice with Figgy, and then fought, and then has two third round finishes, defending his title against Kai Kara France and Davison Figueroa. And for that reason that he has that experience, I do favor Moreno in this spot if the fight goes to decision and in those later rounds. Both of these guys are very durable. Pantoja has never been finished, and Moreno has never been finished outside of that submission loss to Pantoja on the Ultimate Fighter. I honestly think for the line for this fight, it should be a pick'em. Moreno slight favorite just because Pantoja has been looking good as of late, and he has defeated Moreno twice in the past. As for the game plan, Brandon's probably able to win minutes here. I don't see Pantoja doing a lot of wrestling. If he just like bites down on his mouthpiece and starts swinging at Moreno, I don't think Moreno's gonna have a problem or like wilt under that pressure like we've seen like Perez do and some of these other guys. I think Moreno is most likely a slight favorite, maybe minus 150, somewhere in there, minus 130. That's worth a look at betting him somewhere in there, but like, when we look at this line, we see him minus 180, minus 200. It appears money is coming in on let's see where the money looks like it's coming in. Refresh it here. It says he's minus 200. Yeah, opened up minus 180, minus 200. DraftKings opened up minus 190. Currently minus 200. Appears to be a little bit money coming on Moreno. I'd be taking a look at Moreno 4-5 decision or the decision only prop. For Pantoja, I think there might be a little bit of value on playing his money line straight here at plus 170. We see him beat him twice in the past. There's a chance he beats him again. Not really sure how. I think he can win all three ways. And honestly, at any time in this fight. But don't have the best read on who's going to win. And then we go to the main event of the evening, Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Just 4 fights ago, we saw Yair go to decision with Journey Stevens and Max Holloway. I think a lot has been made as him as this hyped up finisher that's going to be like flash knocking out Volkanovski and like jumping triangles and throwing up crazy submissions at him and like going to get him out of here. I honestly think Volkanovski's too cerebral to get caught by anything like that, but it is possible. I don't think Volkanovski is as chinny as we saw in Yair's last fight against Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett was getting hurt bad by everything, to like the body, to the head. He just looked lost out there. I don't think Volkanovski is going to get lost in like the storm of kicks and punches and crazy flying things that Yair's going to throw. I think he's going to take his. I do have a pretty strong read for this fight. I think Volkanovski is going to take his time and stay safe early on in this fight. Then just start kind of timing some low kicks and straight punches while looking to mix in takedowns. Yair has a 63% takedown defense, but that's because everyone is trying to take him down, whether they are a wrestler or not. Volk is decent and a strong wrestler. We saw Max Holloway have a little bit of success with takedowns. I think he had 3 or 4 in their fight. And I think Volk should have no problem getting them here. I'm a little concerned on the submission threat of Yair. We've seen Volk in a fully locked in mounted guillotine that, like, some miracle he got out of somehow. I am a little concerned, like, for him while he's in Yair's guard, because I think when he gets to the ground, he's going to do that. And we've seen him just kind of open up, like when he was in Ortega's guard, and start raining down punches. Ortega is better, probably, at jiu-jitsu than Yair, but Yair is definitely dangerous down there. Um, I don't see Volk getting a submission, so I think the submission only prop for Yair is playable. It's probably at plus money, which I would like to have some money on. Uh, as far as like a finish prop, like we saw Frankie Edgar get a TKO of Yair. I think Volk could win this win this fight in like the later rounds, 3, 4, and 5. But really, who is Volk winning? He's really going to a decision in all these fights. Um, and then even if Volk loses to decision, we've seen champions like Valentina Shevchenko retain their title even though they lost the fight, like Natalia Santos. But Yair is flashy with his kicks that could sway the judges, but we've seen him have 2 decision losses. Wait, did I say that right? 2? Let me check for a second. For some reason that feels off. Because he lost a decision to Holloway. 1 decision loss to Holloway, where Holloway just kind of turned it on late, out volumed him. We've seen Frankie Edgar score TKO. But here, I'm not sure Volk finishes him. I think he just kind of like picks apart, finds his opening, and gets some takedowns, and that's how he wins this fight. The pick is Volk decision, and I honestly am willing to bet it. As long as it's not too chalky. Let's look at the odds. He's minus 400. If the decision props plus money, I'm willing to play it, but it honestly, minus 400 doesn't seem playable. I'm going to look at the Yair submission only, which means if this fight ends by knockout or decision, the fight will be voided. But if Volkanovski wins by decision, then the bet will lose, and if Yair wins by submission, the bet will cash. I think this is a good card overall.